everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Patty. I go by Patty Mac Makes everywhere online. In today's video, we're going to talk about how to make mitered cloth napkins. I have made cloth napkins a couple of different ways, and today's version really is the easiest way that I have discovered to make them. So I wanted to share that with you today. If you're new around here, I would like to invite you to subscribe while you're here today. Make sure that you hit that notification bell and hang out with us. It's fun here and you're going to learn a lot of things. Also, you can find me on Instagram at Patty Mac Makes as well as Patty Mac Bakes. Today's project I made to go along with a placemat project. So two videos, they go together. I was going to try and do both of them in one video, and it was just too much. You know, it's always surprising to me when I go to make a video or write a blog post about how to do a certain project. I always think, oh, this is going to be so easy. It'll take me 15 minutes to do blah, 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 blah. It never works out that way. Something I've learned about sewing and quilting and crafts in general is that even though it might be easy, there are still things that go into making that project really work well and to get your best possible finish. This simple napkin tutorial is no different. So I found that when I jumped into the actual filming of the tutorials, it was a lot more information than I expected it to be. And I just did two videos. I highly recommend making both projects because you will learn so much making them. And this is the type of thing that you can make and remake like every season to freshen the look of your dining table, and it gives you these skill builder techniques. And even though these are basic techniques, this is the type of thing that when you get this foundation under your feet, all of your sewing and all of your quilting will improve because of it. Okay, let's take a look at what we're doing today. These are the napkins. Woohoo, right? Let me show them to you. I'll open it up so you can see it. So here's your front and here's your back. And I mean, they're beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. You can't buy anything this nice, I'm just going to tell you. Unless you go on Etsy. Now, if you go on Etsy and you buy something from a seller on there, maybe. But you're certainly not going to go in the store and buy anything this nice. And even on Etsy, because, you know, they're going to have to rush a little bit to get these things made. But let me just show you the beauty of this, how these corners look. Okay, the camera won't take the focus off of my face, and I'm not changing settings because you have no idea how long it took me to figure out how to get this thing to follow me around. So I will just do what we call B-roll and insert that so that you can really see how beautiful the corners look. This is called a mitered corner, and I have made these a couple of different ways. This is the easiest way that I've seen to do it. I really like this method, and so I wanted to share it with you today. This project hinges completely on how you cut your fabric, okay, honestly, because when you're folding the corners and doing all of this, the way that this comes together is this beautiful flat piece. The way that that happens is because you cut accurately. And what I mean by cutting accurately is not necessarily the size. When I say cutting accurately, what I mean is you have your fabric perfectly flat and lined up exactly on your cutting table so that your selvage is parallel to the long line, and your cross grain is exactly perpendicular. Because when you cut like that, you are cutting your fabric with the least amount of stretch. Because if you cut just at all cattywampus, what's going to happen is you're introducing like a slight bias cut, which means cutting off grain. And when you do that, it stretches out. And so when it comes time to start pressing in the folds and doing all of that, you're going to have a hard time getting your corners to cooperate. So if you are making this and you're just finding that no matter what you do, your corners are not flat, you can't get it to come together, it goes back to the cutting. So just be really, really careful in the cutting at the beginning. I will also share with you that this project is more about pressing out really than it is sewing. While there is sewing involved, of course, it's, you know, it's a sewn fabric napkin. Most of this project is about accurate cutting and pressing. And I don't think that we have that many projects on YouTube or Craftsy or wherever you consume your educational sewing content. I just don't think there's that much that really gets into the importance of the cutting and the pressing. So that's what this is going to be about. You will need a really good iron to do this. There's just no way that you can just finger press and go with that. It's not going to work. And I strongly suggest that you go ahead and use the spray starch. I started using spray starch on all of my quilt squares, my quilt blocks, all of this stuff. I've started using that this summer, and the results are really, really very nice. It really does help that fabric to have that little bit of extra body and to stay really crisp and sharp when you're sewing it. And I don't mean sharp like a pin or something, just that it holds its structure. Because sometimes, you know, the cotton can get soft and move around and all of that, and we don't want that. We want our fabrics to stay right where we need them to be when it's on the machine. You will see that it's kind of a long list of supplies to make this. Don't flip out, and if there are things that you don't have that you're going to need to make this, just go ahead and invest in those tools. You will use them. It's something that you will use over and over. And honestly, these projects are so nice. You can make these napkins all year long. You can update your fabrics by season. It's also a really pretty gift. Okay, without further ado, let's jump into today's project video. These are the tools that I used to make the fabric napkin with mitered corners. I used a cutting mat, and I had 2 quilting rulers. This one is the 6 by 24 inch clear quilting ruler. This is a triangle ruler. This is my new favorite tool, to be honest with you. I love this thing. I also used a rotary cutter, disappearing ink pen, seam gauge. I used this tool as a point turner. I had a small pair of scissors, and I used thread snips. And I highly recommend that you invest in and use spray starch. This is the spray starch that I used. You will also need a sewing machine with thread, a really good steam iron, and an ironing board to press out the project. So those are the tools and equipment you'll need to make today's project. To make our fabric napkin, we are going to start with a 20 by 20 inch square piece of cotton fabric. And I know that seems really big. It really does. But trust me on this, it makes for a really nice sized napkin. So here's the thing. When you cut your fabric, be sure that you have everything nice and flat as possible and lined up properly, and that you are cutting straight of grain, and that your crosswise grain is 90 degrees. So perfect perpendicular cuts. You want that because if you are off your cut at all on this, it's going to give you a fit in terms of laying flat when you go to do the miter. So the best tip I can give you is to make sure that you're cutting accurately and really getting it straight as possible. It seems like a little thing, but it will make such a big deal when you go to actually start sewing this. And the thing about this project is it's actually more pressing than anything else. The secret to getting this project right is that you press out accurately and take your time with that. So to start, we're going to turn it so that we have the wrong side up. So we have our napkin fabric, it's all cut. We're going to starch it, and then we're going to press in our hem. And we're going to use the seam gauge, and I've got it set to a 1-inch mark. And what you're going to do is you're just going to line it up to where it's got that 1-inch mark, and you'll check it all the way across because you want this to be square. But just for purposes of showing you this on the cutting mat, when I go to the ironing board, I'll start at this end and press that in, and then I'll check it all the way across. But what you want is this 1-inch press line all the way across, and you're going to do that on 4 sides. And then you're going to come back and you're going to just fold this over like this as a 1/4-inch mark, and you're going to press that in. So when we come back, what you're going to do is you're going to have your 1/4-inch pressed and your 1-inch pressed, and it'll be like that all the way around. Here you can see I've already stitched and turned one of the corners, and I'm going to show you now in this corner how I did it. So I'm going to line up, and this is why I like doing this on my cutting mat. It's so much easier. So I'm going to just mark at the 2-inch line on each side, 2 inches here, 2 inches here. Then I take my triangle and I'm going to do a 45-degree line from one mark to the next. And you do want this to be accurate. It will matter when you go to fold everything. Fold and stitch. So now you've got your line. Now we're going to fold in that 1/4-inch turn that we pressed. And while that's in, then we're going to pinch right sides together. Now what you really want to do is you want to make sure that your fabric lines up all the way down the corner, because this will make sure that you have a good square join. And then we're going to take this onto the sewing machine, and I'm going to stitch a straight line across the where I marked. And once you have all 4 of your corners done, it's going to look like this, and I just use little binder clips to hold them. So everything is lined up, and I'm going to find that line that I drew, and I'm going to just sew straight across there. Okay, we're going to then clip at about 1/4 of an inch, and then just snip this little corner, and then you're going to open this up and then press that in, and then you can use your little point turner and just poke your corner out, and then you have a beautiful mitered finish. And you can see how these two will line up. Of course, we're going to press. This is the pressing is almost more important than the sewing on this particular project. So okay, I'm gonna do the other 4 and press it so it's nice and flat, and then we'll come back and finish a top stitch. Here's the napkin all pressed out, and I want you to see it as it lays flat. So this is directly related to cutting it on your grain line, because if you cut it at an angle, you're going to wind up having stretch, and if you have stretch, it's going to be super difficult to get all of this to lay flat and to get your nice miter corners. So, okay, the last step in this project is to pop on the machine, and we're just going to do an edge stitch right along here to secure it, and this napkin will be all ready for dinner. So I'm going to put my stitch length up to 3.5, and it's a little bit longer stitch length, and going to start stitching in the sort of in the middle. You don't want to start your stitching in a corner because it will be hard to get that to look nice and neat. So here we go. Come into your corner, and when you are like right in that seam for the miter, stop there, pivot, put your presser foot back down, and then just sew along the edge. And I've met where I started, and that's it. So we just nip our thread tails. And there is your beautifully stitched napkin. That's today's video on how to make fabric napkins. I sure hope that helps you with your miters. I hope that you will give this a try. It's really it's a super fun project when it comes together, and you're just going to want to be patient with it. Take your time with the pressing. The pressing is really the key to success with this particular project. Just take your time, learn to love the ironing and the pressing. It's such an integral, important part of sewing. I never cared about ironing clothes before I started sewing. Now I don't even mind ironing my clothes, and I absolutely love pressing my fabrics. I don't know what happened, but I really enjoy it. Let me share with you that I took a class. It was a craftsy class, and the teacher in the class said, you can be a C sewer, but an A presser, and your project will come out A+ quality. So the pressing is that important. If you really get the knack of that, and you learn how to work with the seams, and you learn how to press things up perfectly and beautifully, all of your stuff will have a crisp, professional look. Because I mean, these are as nice as anything. In fact, they're nicer. I mean, you can't go to Dillard's and buy something this nice. I mean, really, I'm not joking. Here's both projects together, and you can see they're absolutely beautiful. The napkin matches the fabric I used on the binding for the placemat. This is a great weekend make. You can have the whole set. It'll be ready to go by the time you start the new week, and you'll have these wonderful, cheerful place settings to get you through your week. So I hope that you will make them. If you have questions, drop them below. I will do my best to answer them. And I think that's all I have for you today. Okay, so thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share, do all the things, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye-bye.